Today we're going to be talking about lesson 53, which is about perimeter, and then also talking about the measures of a circle. So we're going to be talking about how to measure a circle because it's a little different than your just normal polygons. So first of all, what is the perimeter? Just looking at this picture, what would be the perimeter of this rectangle? And you guys can use your whiteboards and your dry erase markers to solve this. You can do it in your head if you feel confident doing it in your head. But I want you to show me your answer on your whiteboard. So I want you to solve for the perimeter. However you solve it is fine. But show me your answer and make sure you label it. Okay, can you explain how you got that answer?
I got my answer by doubling the 3 because it's the exact same length on both sides. And then doubling the 2, which is on both sides, and then adding both of those numbers up.
Okay, so he doubled the 3, so 3 times 2, and he got 6. And then he doubled the other sides, 2 times 2, and got 4. And then he added those together to get 10. Okay, guys, don't forget your mask has to be up while we're in class. So 10 centimeters is correct. A lot of you guys were showing me 10 centimeters, which is great. So awesome job. Some of you did it in your head. Some of you showed me the work. Either way is totally. Okay, so perimeter is pretty easy, right? You add up all the sides together. Well, what if I give you this formula and I said P equals 2L plus 2W? Does that scare you?
No.
It shouldn't. Okay, I don't want it to. What do you think P stands for?
Perimeter.
It stands for perimeter. Okay, what do you think the L stands for?
Length.
And the W?
Width.
Okay, so if I take out, I have nothing. It's just 2L. What does that mean when I have 2L? If L is a variable, and what do I do if 2 is attached to an L? There's nothing in between there.
Multiply.
Yes. When there's not an operation sign present, it means multiply. As you continue to get older and you start doing more geometry like this, they will remove those multiplication signs because when you start plugging in variables, like what Lexi said a second ago, sometimes that X can look like a variable. Okay? X is a very common variable. In fact, X and Y are super common. So when you're doing algebra, X's and Y's are typically your variables. We don't want to get confused when we switch over and we start doing geometry type things and have X's in there. That's why they take this out and they just write 2L instead. So there is no confusion. Why do you think they use a cursive L?
So it doesn't look like a number 1.
Yeah, so it doesn't look like a number 1 because if I just did this, it looks like 21 to me instead. Okay, so I'm just trying to explain each part of this formula to you. Formulas are awesome. I love using formulas. I love solving math problems when I have a formula to plug because all you're doing is plugging pieces in. So to solve this using a formula, this is what it's going to look like. And this is how I want you to do it. Okay, it's not optional. This is how you're going to solve a problem using a formula. You will always start by writing the formula. We start by copying it down. Whatever formula you're using, you copy it down first. Then you plug in everything that you know. So I have 2 times what? What's my length? 3. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing with these parentheses in just a second. What's my width?
2.
Okay, now look at how I wrote this. If I came over here and I wrote it like this instead, what do you think somebody's going to think?
P equals 20. You're going to have to.
They're going to think that it's 23 plus 22. Okay, so what does it mean if I have 2 next to a parenthesis with a number inside?
So
Grace.
it doesn't look
It's so you can say, okay, there's 2 sides, and they're each 3 centimeters.
They're each 3. Oh, she used a very big key word. 2 sides that are each 3 centimeters. So what does that tell me I'm doing right here?
Multiplying.
I'm multiplying. When you see a number next to a parenthesis, you are multiplying. Okay? Just like this means I am multiplying. Now, there's another way that people can write this. If you don't like having it in the parenthesis, you can always write it like this. Here's another option. You can do P equals 2 times 3 plus 2 times 2. That little dot is a symbol for multiplication. So you won't get confused and think it's a variable with using an X. A little dot means to multiply. Okay? I like parentheses. It's almost like if I were to have this 2 times what plus 2 times what. It's like my missing box almost. But I'm taking away the box of what we used to do like in lower math grades, and I'm now replacing it with parentheses, okay? All right, so moving on. Now I'm going to solve this. So P equals, what is 2 times 3?
6,
What is 2 times 2?
4,
And so what is my perimeter? 10 what?
centimeters.
Every single problem will look like this. Look how beautiful and organized. You have every step. The reason I teach my students this method is because the older you get, the longer your formulas get, the more confusing they get. And if you can train yourself now to show every single step like this, you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache later on. Because as your formulas get more confusing and longer, it's easier to go back to just a couple steps instead of redoing the entire thing again. If you have work on your paper that's just scattered all over and it's not organized, it's very difficult for you or your teacher to figure out where you messed up. So it's nice to have it all in a row like this, okay? All right, what is the perimeter of this regular triangle? First, what does regular mean? What do you think? These are examples of all regular polygons. We've talked about it before. Milo.
It's like they're not any weird shape or anything.
There's not any weird shape.
Like no crazy turns or anything.
No crazy turns, no crazy angles, nothing wacky. So my pentagon isn't going to look like, yeah, or it's not going to look like 1, 2, 3, 4. And I didn't do a very good job. I about made a regular pentagon trying to draw a non-regular pentagon. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's kind of weird. Okay, that's a irregular polygon. Kind of looks like a house, I guess, or a home plate. But the main thing I want you to know, if this down here is a regular triangle, and it only tells me one side is 12 inches, what do I know about the others? Ainsley,
You're going to multiply them. Like each side is 12.
how do you know?
Because they're all the same.
They're all the same. Okay, now look back up here at all my regular shapes, all of my regular polygons. What do you notice about all the side lengths?
They're all the same.
They're all the same. That's what makes them regular. Okay, we talked about this when we talked about polygons before. Oh, it might have been before Christmas. I don't remember. It's been a while. Okay, we talked about polygons, and I told you that there is a difference between a regular polygon, and I'm revisiting it now, and a polygon. A regular polygon is special because every single side length is the same. It's the traditional shapes you're used to. When you start learning your shapes when you're little, and you learn what a square and a triangle and a pentagon are, all the sides are the same. It's not until you get a little bit older that they start to get, the sides change a little bit and they get a little wonky. And you're like, oh, well, that's still technically a pentagon. It's got 5 sides. Or that's technically a nonagon because there's 9 sides. It might just not all match. Okay? So if I want to find the perimeter, Ainsley told me what I needed to do. Because it's regular, I know that since I have 3 sides, I can do 12 times 3 and get 36. But what do I want it to look like? I want it to look like this. P equals what? 3 times what? 12, because my side length is 12. Okay, so then I solve it, and it's going to be 36 inches. And that's my answer. Why did I not use the formula P equals 2L plus 2W? Why did I not use that formula?
Because you can't multiply variables. I mean,
I can multiply variables.
yeah.
Yes.
Because all the sides are the same.
All the sides are the same, and what else? How come I'm not doing 2 times the length plus 2 times the width? Colton.
These triangles don't have like a real width, like they are not square, so the width is different everywhere you measure it.
Right, so a triangle only has 3 sides. I don't have opposite sides that are parallel, right? So that's why I just did times 3. And a pentagon, right. You couldn't do it with a pentagon or a octagon or a hexagon. It has to be a 4-sided figure to use this formula. Has to be. If it's not 4-sided, then you just multiply the number of sides by 1 side length, and then you got your perimeter. Okay? All right. Let's talk about a circle for a minute, and then you can get started with your practice. A circle is pretty cool. They're unique. okay? Circles are unique.
Circumference. I love this stuff.
But we love circles, and they're super fun. So first thing, perimeter, we don't say perimeter of a circle. It has a different name.
Circumference.
Yes. You notice my drawing here. The circumference is the distance around a circle. It's not called perimeter. Area, yes, we can still call it area of a circle, but instead of having a length and a width, the length that goes across from one side of the circle all the way to the other is called the diameter. The radius is only half of the distance, okay, which means it's half of the diameter. Is everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
And then the center point is just in the very center middle of the circle. And that's all you really need to know about circles. You need to know the parts. You need to understand how it works, okay? We're not doing circumference today. Don't worry. Okay, your lesson today is on page 371. So lesson 53 begins on page 371.